politicians. You got a race down in the Peatone area and down in Kankakee between Lindsey Parkhurst, the Republican challenger, against Kate Cloonan, the Democratic incumbent. They both have good ratings by the NRA and the ISRA. The difference is Lindsey Parkhurst has a carry concealed license. She practices what she preaches. The Democrat, Cloonan, follows orders from Madigan. Madigan ties up all pro-gun bills in committee so they don't get out and get to be voted on. And he sends the anti-gun bills out, and Cloonan gets to build up a record of being pro-gun by voting down bills that will never pass. But when the chips are down, she follows Madigan's orders. So if you're in the Peatone area or know anybody in Kankakee, get them behind Lindsey Parkhurst for Illinois House. My wife, Margo McDermott's on the ballot. She got scary concealed, but she's uncontested, so don't worry about her. Anybody have any questions about some of the local races? Okay, is Gary Good going to be speaking too?
Gary?
Yeah,
he's next.
He's another pro-gun guy.
Yes.
But the guns he had in the military were like 50 caliber.
And helicopters.
Or bigger. So I brought some signs. If you'd like a Trump sign, please come get them. I don't want to take them home because I want to see them out there in people's yards. I went down to Cincinnati to see my girls a couple weeks ago, and everything I saw was a Trump sign. I saw one Clinton sign the entire drive from here down to Cincinnati, Ohio, which was really nice. I also have a few bumper stickers. I'm going to give away once because I was thinking about something that way here. I was thinking, man, should I go to the ISRA tonight? And because I could probably knock on doors in the rain or something like that. But I realized that I like to hear the stories and hear the talks that Doug and everybody else here sets up for us. So I thought I'd come out tonight. I was thinking about something. I was thinking about basic training. So who here knows if I say, I see the light, drill sergeant, what that means?
Didn't hear what you said.
I see the light, drill sergeant. I see the light. Anybody remember what that means?
It means you understand.
Dang it, what?
You understand everything.
I understand, yes. I was thinking about the Claymore, though. Does anybody remember employing the Claymore? You had to hook up the little test thing, and then you press it, and you go click, and you say, I see the light, drill sergeant. Well, I see the light for my campaign, but I think we see the light for Trump. And we know that all these polls are coming out, and they're saying all these things, but we know it's not what the polls are saying, because those polls don't talk to a lot of people. I will tell you, I've been doing some personal polling, and they're not very good, because the reality is most of the young people that are voting, and middle-aged people, they don't have landlines, so the polls are not very good. In fact, if you live in Will County 10, you might have heard about Joe Colasari. He's a Democrat out of Chicago who's come down to Will County to make influence here. He's running against our Republicans, Gloria Dollinger and Tallarico. And he sued Gloria Dollinger the other day. He instituted a class action lawsuit saying that she's calling cell phones. Well, first of all, he's just doing it to get in the paper. Second of all, he's doing the Clinton thing to try and attack people just because he feels like it. And thirdly, he's going to lose because you have to know it's a cell phone. So when a person puts in, like I do, my phone is the same number all the time, we don't know it's a cell phone, so they didn't do anything wrong. But it gets his name in the paper and gets him on the radio and stuff, talk about how she's doing bad stuff. And that's exactly what we're doing. My opponent has done something similar. Many of you might know Steve Weber. Who knows Steve Weber? Everybody knows Steve Weber just about. My opponent at the Grand Haven said that Steve Weber was driving around some county car, and he was using up your dollars driving around this county car. And then he said, and there were some other things that weren't quite right. So when I got in the office, I made sure that stuff got fixed. Well, I made sure Steve got a copy of that video because I knew, knowing Steve like I do recently, I knew he wasn't the kind of person to do bad things. Yet my opponent was sitting there trying to do the Clinton thing and try and imply he was doing some bad things. So please, if you have questions about the candidates or anything, get a hold of Ed, get a hold of me, whatever you need to do, because we will be glad to track down whatever somebody's saying, because I guarantee you they're going to pull out all the stops in this last 3 weeks, because a lot of them are scared. Michelle Smith, over in the Plainfield area, she's running the 49th to be senator over there. They're scared to death. For Jennifer Bertino-Tarrant, she actually came out with an ad today, and she's saying, Michelle Smith this, Michelle Smith that. And it's coming out on Fox News, it's coming out on everything else. So Doug said 2 minutes. I've already been talking for 5. I don't mean to talk too much. I just want to make sure that we're paying attention. They're very scared. I was talking to Lindsay last night. They were running all kinds of ads against her. You know, they're coming out and saying, oh, her opponent, whose name I always forget because I don't care, is pro-NRA and everything. But if you didn't catch what Ed just said, what Madigan does is he says, go ahead, you can vote for this one because I know you need it in your district. Last time you only won by 112 votes. I know you've got to be pro-gun, so go ahead. I won't let it out of committee. So she gets to vote for it and say, I voted for it. Look how great I am. I'm a good pro-gun supporter. But it never sees the light of day. Browner's desk never sees that bill. And that's what they do time again. And that's why we've got to destroy the Afghanistan we see today. And we've got to get some people in there like Lindsay Parkhurst and Michelle Smith and others out there. And we've got to get more Margot McDermott's and Mark Batniks and people like that so we can change the way it's going. And that's why I came home. That's why I'm running to be your auditor, because I want to make a difference. I'm tired of watching my state go to HE double hockey sticks. I'm tired of seeing at the bottom of every positive list in the United States and the top of every negative list. And that's why I'm running to be your auditor. My name is Gary Good. I really appreciate your time. I'm sorry I took too much. Have a great night.
We've only got a couple of things. Gun shows, 10, 22, and 23, Pheasant Run, 10, 29, and 30, Princeton, which I consider my favorite gun show. I only make it there once a year, though. 11-6, Wheaton, 11, 12, and 13. I guess that's it, or 11 and 12, Kankakee. One of our members showed me this tonight. It's a picture of a sign that's in the Manuka Hardware store, Ace Hardware store on Ridge Road. Concealed carry welcome. And for those of you that don't know, that's Jerry's Ace Hardware. My brother-in-law Jerry works there, so that's how we talk about it. But I didn't find out about it from Jerry. I put a whole mess of cards over on the thing over there, the shield cards. And this is for the insurance through the Concealed Carry Association, United States Concealed Carry Association. However, if you scan this funny looking black and white thing on the corner here, that square, the app, they call it, and sign up through that, the ISRA gets money out of that. So if you're going to get concealed carry insurance, the ISRA can get a little bit of money too. It's important. If you got your bulletins, today there was a bulletin out about a former veteran who got arrested and the Concealed Carry Association took care of it on his own property. But they took care of it for his, and he'd only been a member a couple of months, so his $12 a month bill fee really paid for itself. And the last thing I want to talk about, our Must Be Present raffle. We have a Remington RM380, 380 automatic, hammer-fired, ambidextrous magazine releases, holds 6 rounds, comes with 2 magazines. Looks like a pretty nice little pistol. It's up here. If people want to look at it after the meeting, I'll leave it out for a while. I'm done, Doug.
Somebody may win it tonight.
It's possible. I hope not, but it's possible. Well, I didn't say it out loud, did I?
Cliff, you want to talk about that gun?
Doug got a little bonus from Front Sight. They just got back, Lee and Doug got back to Front Sight.
And Jeff.
And Jeff and 16 of his buddies, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But he got this gun as a bonus, and it was kind of a nice gun. Not a whole lot known about it. It's an American company, FMK.
Put that up to your mouth and can't hear it.
But this one actually has the Bill of Rights, a laser etched in gold around the whole slide. Kind of neat looking. Proudly American. It is an American company. If anybody wants to take a look at that, Doug said they could come up here and take a look at it. It's kind of a nice gun.
Don't fall.
Good trick.
My big feet, I know.
Yeah, we, Lee, Jeff, and I, and several others went out to Front Sight for our annual 4-day training out there, and we had a lot of fun. And Jeff was teased a little bit for his style and pink hat and among other things. So
Bikini top.
yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it's very, very good training too. So we did that.
They didn't tease him because he shot well, though.
That's another story. Yeah, Jeff is a phenomenal shot, and which I think everybody's probably well aware. After the meeting, I have the Friends of NRA. Friends of NRA, we have the Guns of November tickets again, and it's one ticket is $30. If you get 4, you actually get a bonus chance to get a Daniels Defense AR-15 or $1,000, and only people who will be entered into that drawing are the people who buy 4 tickets. And otherwise, every day you get 2 chances to win a gun, and each ticket has 4 numbers on it, so you really have 8 chances a day to win a gun. It's I think the best odds of winning a gun on any of the raffles that we typically see. With that, I'd like our guest speaker, Pete Wilkes, to come up. He's a state's attorney in Will County. He's going to talk about identity theft, so we welcome him up.
Thank you very much. I think I could probably carry the room with my voice, so I can.
Okay.
I'm going to say, if you want to take your coat off, you're among friends.
Yeah, I was going to do that too, but that's the old state's attorney, and there's at least 2 people in this room.
They won't tell on you.
Well, but they know about me. One probably doesn't remember me too well, but Mr. Ronkowski, back in the days when I started as a Cook County prosecutor at 26th Street, I was there for a long time. And then Phil Mock is here. And I'm not going to stand before you and profess that I am the smartest person in this room, whether you have a law degree or not. I'm not. But especially with these 2 gentlemen in the room, I feel a little bit humbled because they probably could have presented this type of presentation to you far better than I. You've got a situation tonight where I'm probably number 3 on the list, as Doug had mentioned. You've got the debate, you've got the baseball game, and you made it out for this presentation and, of course, your meeting. I'm not going to sell you a bill of goods right here. This is identity theft. It's not a very sexy subject, but nonetheless, I'll do the best I can to keep you entertained and learn something along the way. So what I did, and I thought I was going to have the benefit, you're going to have to bear with me, is as I was putting together this presentation, and I'm not that old of a man, I'm 53, but it kind of dawned on me, and I think Doug and I talked a little bit about this before we started, the evolution of the banking process and how we conduct our financial transactions has changed drastically since the 70s when I was a youth and growing up until the present day. And I bet you could probably even go back within the past 10 years how much more easy it is for us to access our financial records. Whether this is good or bad or otherwise, nonetheless, we are now a society that likes to have things quickly. Let's get things done. I want to get to my bank account. I want to make a payment really quick. I want you to scan it when I come up there so I don't have to take out cash or I don't have to take out a check. And as a consequence, because of the easiness or the relative simpleness as it relates to our transactions, criminals have adjusted their game. I mean, when you think back in the 70s, I do remember like on Fridays and Saturdays, Friday nights in particular, or Saturdays in the afternoon, my folks getting their paycheck, a paper paycheck, and then driving over to a bank and either going inside to the teller and presenting it to cash it or deposit it, or they would go to a drive-up window and do it that way. And that's the way that we conducted business. If you went into a grocery store, you were either paying cash or you would stand up there and you would write a check. Now think how drastically that's changed nowadays. When have you last gone into a grocery store and people are putting their credit cards or debit cards now with the chip into a reader, and you're standing there, you press a couple buttons, you put your security code in there, and you're walking out the door with your receipt and your goods. And in theory, merchants like that because you can get more customers through, they're going to get the money. People are in a rush nowadays for whatever reason, so they can get in, they can get out, and that's the way that we've kind of chosen to conduct our business. But as I mentioned a little bit earlier, criminals, and I use this parenthetically, are not dumb people. If you want to devote your existence 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, a criminal is always going to find out how can I beat the system? And that's what you see nowadays. You see the types of cases that come in not only to Will County, but to every single county, not only within this state or other states. They are making adaptations. They are doing things differently than pickpocketing and taking your wallet and presenting it. They're running scams. There's different ways in which people are now trying to get access to your financial records and to assume an identity, to take over you, and which eventually leads into causing a lot of problems later on down the road. Whether that's experienced, whether you personally experience something like that, or you know of somebody, and I bet you probably do or have heard of a situation where someone has had their credit card or bank account or something has been compromised. Now, it certainly puts a lot of pressure because there are horror stories in which people's checking accounts, their savings accounts have been drained. And for a multitude of reasons why they didn't know, whether they weren't paying attention to it, it's a sad situation, but they do happen out over there. What I would suggest to everybody, even if you were to safeguard yourself the best that you possibly can, there still runs a risk that you could become a victim of some type of financial fraud, identity theft, that someone can get access to your records. And I would suggest that to you because I have seen cases over the years, and I know Ed is involved with any of the criminal cases anymore, but certainly with Phil. But you will have individuals these days that can put data retrieval devices on an ATM machine, on a gas pump, so that when you put that card in, it's retrieving that magnetic information on the back of that credit card. And these criminals are able to reproduce and replicate cards by re-encoding it on a credit card. And Katie barred the door, all hell is breaking loose because there is a major spree. They will go and go and go until they get stopped or get caught. And they will run that scam and they will continue to use that card until it's declined, until you have a clerk who is half awake and is asking for some other type of identification. And you'll still have those criminals that are smart enough to perhaps alter some identification with their picture that will somehow get that clerk to go ahead and run that transaction through. So, with that being said, you have your identity theft laws that are enacted to protect us. And that, of course, is in large response to people contacting their legislatures and getting these laws on the book. But at the end of the day, there are certainly some scams that criminals are going to run. And I'm probably not telling you anything that you don't know because you can find it on the internet. But I think there's certain safeguards that we can all employ in our daily lives to at least cut down or minimize these types of incursions and delving into our financial life. Starting with the obvious. Most, if not all, credit cards these days will offer the opportunity to have an emailed bill to some address. Now, not even getting into how criminals can get into access into computers, but think about what these criminals have done in these cases that I've personally seen, where an individual gets mail sent to their house, and some defendant will get a hold of the mail, and they will take that information, and they will be able to assume your identity and run their game with that. So, a lot of people, myself is included, because I still prefer to receive mail of my particular bills, don't like to get that email bill. I like to see it come in the mail. But one thing that you can do is make sure that you're getting your mail quickly out of the mailbox. And if you're going to be gone for a day or two, don't assume anything. I mean, criminals have nothing but time on their hands. They're not like you and I. We're doing our jobs and we're dealing with our families. They have nothing but time. So if they can get their hands on that, they'll wait, they'll run their surveillances, they'll take a look, they'll see whether it's a mailbox at an apartment complex or whether it's your home on the street right there. If they get the opportunity, they're going to go ahead and do that. If you choose to receive that type of bill, then shred it. Don't throw it out in the garbage and then put the garbage at the curbside, because there's, well, up until a couple of weeks ago, the one term that I heard of dumpster diving is when people would go into the back of restaurants and pull food out of there and eat it. But your criminals will go back and they will search your garbage and they will take that information out of there. If you want to put your personal information, your name, your date of birth, your social security number, driver's license information, anything with respect to your credit cards, any personal information, banking account. Those criminals get a hold of it. They have the ability to use that information and then create problems for your life. So don't put your stuff out to the curbside. There's an expectation of privacy that's lost when you put your garbage out to the street. So don't give them the opportunity to do that. And the other ways that you see a lot of these criminals in trying to get your information is by random telephone calls. You may get an unsolicited telephone call from some particular company that is going to offer you the best job sending out mail, licking the envelope and sending it out. And what they will do is they'll ask you to send a check or send some type of money or a credit card number asking for their starter kit. We'll send you the starter kit out there. You can start making millions of dollars by sitting from your kitchen table and sending out envelopes. Now, putting aside, and if anybody is doing that, please forgive me right now. I don't mean to insult anybody, but I think the practical reality is that no one is going to get rich from their kitchen table sending out envelopes. But these criminals will do that. They'll send that out. The check comes in, and if you do get a starter check, some type of starter kit, it's not what it's purported to be. And if it is legitimate, you're not going to certainly make as much money as they are telling you that they're going to make. But that's a particular type of scam that you often see in the community. You'll have one particular one, this is a little sophisticated, is phishing. You'll have individuals send out emails. And by the virtue of the fact that you open up that particular email, it somehow attacks the computer, and I'm not an IT guy, but it can get into the computer, it can hack, they can somehow shadow or ghost follow what you're putting into your computer, they get access to it. So these are the types of things, the scams. And again, it's a lot different from the days of when they would take a credit card from you, pick your pocket, or if you left your credit card. And these are the types of things that you leave something behind. Once these individuals get a hold of that, even if it's an honest mistake, it causes problems. So what are the types of things that you can do? And again, this is common sense stuff. So you don't have to have a law degree to do this. But if you have a situation where you have a credit card and you're monitoring your statements, assuming you're monitoring statements, and you see something that's suspicious on that credit card, well, the first thing you need to do is contact your credit card company and make a report of it so that at the end of the day, when they conduct their investigation, you're not going to be personally liable for those charges. And it can be done, and they can conduct their investigation. Another method that you might be able to employ is again, follow your accounts. Whether you're getting that bank statement once a month in the mail, or whether you choose to do it by way of the computer and you're following it, if you all of a sudden see multiple deductions and you know that you're not doing anything with that particular account, that is the first sign that there might be a problem. Contact your bank. One other indication that you might have had some type of identity theft is if you go in, you make an application for a car loan, for some type of loan of any type, or you're seeking some type of credit, and the next thing you know, you're getting denied that when you thought you had a 700 or 800 credit status. It's a pretty good indication at that particular point that there's an issue right there. But that's what these criminals have done. That's how they've evolved over time, and that's what the types of things that they're doing. In the Will County State's Attorney's Office, and in particular with a lot of the police agencies that we deal with, if you find that you are a potential victim of some type of identity theft, you also have to contact the local agency, whether it's your municipality, your village, or if it's a county matter. Contact your police and make a record of it. I can personally tell you that there are some great detectives, some great financial detectives that are out there in all the jurisdictions within Will County that will work that case up. Some of them are big schemes, and some of them are just dirty, rotten luck that someone got a hold of your information. But if you don't report it to police, it's not going to be prosecuted by our office. And we will prosecute that case, and we hopefully will get an arrest warrant and get that person, bring those person or people to justice. As I was thinking about the presentation here today, I was trying to go back on a couple of extreme circumstances where some of the personal identification, personal information was really compromised. And when the case had come through, and the case has been long gone, and the defendant has been sentenced to the Illinois Department of Corrections. But there was a scam at a financial institution, at a bank, and it was coming out of my hometown in Frankfurt, and there was an employee that was there that was working with 5 or 6 other people, and she was a teller, and they were specifically targeting senior citizens that were coming in and conducting their transactions the old school way. And so what happened was this teller was being paid by these individuals for every customer that he provided the financial information. That individual, the bank employee, was getting paid. And 3 of the victims, senior citizens, had their bank accounts drained, and it was to the tune collectively of over $100,000. Now, at that point in your life, that's the last thing that you want to be worrying about, is having your life savings, assuming people don't have their stocks and they have the proper investments, that they're just keeping their money and letting their money accrue by way of interest in the bank. But this person would take that information, they would send it out, and people were out there and they were using the information and opening up credit cards and taking the money from the account, and it was terrible. And the laws on identity theft recognize certain statuses, the victim's status, as far as the potential punishment is concerned. And in particular, if you were to take a look at the identity theft statute, there's basically 2 people. The senior citizens are protected. In other words, depending on the amount of money that's involved, that will range it from a Class X felony, which a person is scammed out of over $100,000, all the way down to a Class 4 felony, where the scam doesn't exceed $300, excuse me. If that victim is a senior citizen, it bumps it up 1 felony class. So we recognize that they're there to protect the senior citizens, because seniors, let's be honest, are probably less likely to go ahead and get into the more high-tech, 21st century type of financial transactions. The other protected status, as far as the victims are concerned, are people that are involved in the armed forces or the reserves, and whether they're serving in a foreign country. The law on the identity theft will recognize it. If they're actively serving and they become a victim, that penalty increases by raising it 1 higher felony standard. So that, along with the certain amounts, there are laws that are out there that help people. And in this particular case, because of that bank employee, which at the end of the day, the banks are going to not ponying up, and Phil, you can probably correct me on this, at the end of the day, the banks are going to be in a position to make these people whole again. But we need the people, and if you know somebody, to bring to the police department so that we can at least get them in court and make an attempt to get restitution. You know, each of the assistants that are assigned in the courtrooms over here in Will County, and in any county, that's one of the responsibilities that we have. We certainly want to obtain the conviction of that defendant, but we will also make an effort, to the extent that the defendant has the ability to make some type of financial payment, to obtain restitution, or at least get a judgment against that individual for the amount that's taken. So we're there to do that, and we are always in consultation with our victims in those types of cases, or we should be in contact with them. But those are some of the types of things that can be done. And just get off the beaten track, I was asked over at the table where Phil is at over there, do I have a gun? It has nothing to do with identity theft. No, I don't have a gun. I come from a law enforcement family. My father was a state trooper for many years. He was the executive director of 3 governor's details. He was United States Marshal for the Northern District of Illinois. We've got a brother who was a trooper with the state police. I've got a sister who's a prosecutor in DuPage County. I've got cousins that were Chicago police officers. I've been around weapons and guns my entire life. I'm not going to use a gun. I'm a licensed private detective and private security contractor. I could carry a gun. I'd be the first to tell you that I would probably shoot myself in the foot before anything. I don't carry a gun. To add to that, just to give you an idea about my mental makeup, in my house, my wife has the weapons. She's got 2 of them. And she's got them underneath her bed, and she's got the little container right there where it opens up on the fingerprints. So I let her handle the shooting in the house. I'm old school. One of my favorite lines is, I've been a man a lot longer than I've been a lawyer. So if there's any intrusions in my house, I'm going to personally go down and greet that individual. And if they make it up to where my wife and my kids are, she can pick them off at the top of the over there. So, but I totally respect the fact about having the guns. And then I just wanted to tie that up because I told Phil that I will fill in. I was asked over there, do I have a gun? I don't. But here it is. In any event, I just wanted to bring some of these things. Doug, I don't know how much time I had, and so that's why I'm not, if I'm taking too much time.
You can go up till 8 if you want.
No,
Whenever you're done, you're done.
No, that's fine. I just, the thing about identity theft really, at the end of the day, is this. It's just a matter of common sense. If you find yourself that you're in line at a grocery store, if you find yourself standing at an ATM machine, there are things that you can do to at least decrease the chances that someone is going to see what your PIN number is. There are things that you can do to cover it. Be aware of your surroundings. And it really, again, that states the obvious. It's no different than if you were to walk through a parking lot late at night with no lights. You have to be aware of what's around you and what you're doing and paying attention. Because, again, these defendants, these people that are out there will run sophisticated games. They'll try and detract. They'll stand around and make it look like they're looking at the gum and see if they can catch what your PIN number is. When you do receive a telephone call from somebody, and if the deal sounds like it's just too good to be true, guess what? It probably is too good to be true. You don't want to give that information to anybody unless you know for sure. One of the things is, people, you have to carry a wallet nowadays. And one of the things that I often hear police officers say is, well, don't carry any personal identification. I don't know how practical that is. At some point, if you ever find yourself being pulled over by a police officer, they're going to ask for some form of identification. You're going to have a driver's license or some type like. So I think it's completely unrealistic that you're just going to walk around not having a wallet or your purse or anything on there. But if you do, there are certain safeguards. Don't put in one of your diaries or a calendar book your secret passcodes for your PIN numbers or what passwords are for that, because if that gets lifted by some defendant, they're going to have access to it, obviously. If you write down on the back of a card what your security code is or what that PIN number is, you're going to have problems with that. So the practical reality is, if you're going to carry the identification, and we all do, just be very mindful of the fact that if that's lifted, if someone takes that from you, it's going to create some particular problems. That was one other example, and it escaped me right now. One of the things, though, in addition to the identity theft laws, is that if you have, if you believe or you see something, if you have a senior citizen or somebody that's having some issues, if they're a little senile, again, those are the types of people that you want to, because those are the people that these defendants are targeting. And as a consequence, if we kind of take a collective community approach to things, really, if you see something, you say it. If you know somebody, say something to somebody, and hopefully that will protect you, them, and all of us in general. So, Doug, outside of that, I will certainly try to answer any questions if there are. And I want to thank you all for allowing me the last 20 minutes or so of your undivided attention.
So last month, I'm sure you heard, so Minooka was victim, over 160 residents of Minooka were victim of credit card fraud. Someone was there with a skimmer, or an employee was selling numbers, or was. So and they actually tracked it down to the Wendy's. So I know I had over $2,000 taken from mine. My wife had over $1,000 taken from hers. My son had like $800 from his. Can we legally go after Wendy's if it wasn't employees selling our card numbers?
Well, that is a civil question that I don't deal too much with. I think it's going to be dependent upon the circumstances and how that information was going. I mean, you have an employee that's committing a criminal act, there may be some difficulty attributing it to the employer because it's a criminal act. Now, the question is, perhaps were they negligent? Were they aware of something? Were they putting that employee in a position where they should have known and they failed to take some action? And I think those are the types of issues that that would be looked at. From a business standpoint, I would be surprised if there wasn't some type of, maybe an insurance policy. And again, I would defer to Phil or anybody else that might have that. But there could be some backup right there as to, making the customers whole and fostering that goodwill as opposed to leaving the bad taste in the mouth outside of their hamburgers anyways, but nonetheless. Yeah. And I do like them though, so don't get me wrong. But I think that, good, I will.
Well, I had a question. I don't have an ATM card, and I just heard so many horror stories about them. You hear where people put in a mirror, something, and
yeah, and I've never had the situation, but as been explained to me by the police department, you might be able to pick up on something. If you insert your card into that device, and it seems a little loose, or if it's kind of, less than secure, that might be a pretty good indication that there might be something going on or someone had tampered with that, and you might have some reservations to run that transaction through. But getting into the particulars, I don't know if once you put that card in, pull it out, and then you try to hit the cancel of that, that probably is going to be picked up right there, and they're going to have it if in fact it is that device that's tracking it. So it really, the best situation if you do suspect something like that is contact your carrier and let them know. I canceled that transaction. If there's something that pops up on it, or if you see anything like that, they give them the heads up on that. And that's probably the best you can do. I don't think you can stop that. I think you're trying to contain damage at this point when you know that you've been hacked. Yes, sir.
Are companies like LifeLock valid?
Well, I'm not an employee, and I'm not here to advertise for them. I don't know. I know people that use it, and I'm certainly not providing this opinion as a representative from the Will County State's Attorney's Office, but rather as Pete Wilkes, a guy. I have some friends that have used it and have said that particular company, along with a lot of other companies that do detect that, do happen to work. When I was in private practice, I've had people complain that it didn't work, they weren't notified in time. And I don't mean to give you an ambivalent, wishy-washy answer, but I mean, they're out there, they continue to advertise, and I think I've heard more stories that they liked it as opposed to not liking it. So,
anecdotally, I'm a member, and I went out to Gander Mountain, and they talked me into getting a Gander Mountain credit card. And I no sooner filled out the application, I was walking out the store, my phone rang, and they told me there's something going on. Somebody made an application in your name for a credit card that quickly. So,
it doesn't surprise me because, again, if I go back to that bank, to the bank employee, I mean, that's what these criminals are doing. The criminals are going to college these days, and they're coming back with some information, and they're running their scams. That would not surprise me because there have been stories where there have been people, employees working at these stores that are just giving that information out. How they do that, I don't know, but they are capable of doing stuff like that.
I had to confirm that it was me,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
I did have my identity stolen, and the second time they used it, they had made a driver's license with my name, address, everything. And first time they bought a phone at Verizon, and then a couple months later, they had the driver's license now made.
Right.
And they went to the next state over and bought the same exact phone at AT&T. And when I called to cancel everything and tell them it was identity theft, she was reading off the fake driver's license. And I have a CDL, and I'm thinking, so now somebody out in Pennsylvania is driving around with my driver's license, and she said, this is the numbers that's on the card. So evidently she had like the picture of it right in front of her, and she's reading everything, and I'm like, yeah, that's what's on it.
Well, let me ask you this question. How many times, you have a credit card or a debit card, correct?
Yes.
All right, how many times have you presented it to a clerk at some store and they have not asked you for any further identification. Didn't even check to see if your signature was on the back, not that they would know what your signature is anyways, but they just run the transaction through. And that goes back to what I said earlier, these clerks are not doing what they should be doing. But these criminals are sure as hell going to have that information with their picture on something that resembles a driver's license. So if you have a clerk that is half awake and is asking for it, that's exactly what they can do. And at the end of the day, if it's declined and they try and get the card back, and the clerk is going to retain it or keep it for police, they don't care. They're going to turn around, they're going to walk away, and that's it. And that's what happens. Fortunately, a lot of these businesses and the vendors now are having or have cameras over their counters, over their cash registers, and the police are able to at least take a look at that. And if they don't recognize, because you have people that are coming from out of state running their scams, but if you have people within the area doing it, police have the opportunity to get that information out, which they call a critical reach, and they'll send it out to other police agencies. And these detectives will pick it up, and they may see these pictures, and they'll say, well, you know what, that's the guy that either we have in custody right now, or that's been doing the same thing over there, and now you've got multiple jurisdictions working on it, and it could be from out of county, which is very typical. So even if you don't get them right away, they're going to get caught, assuming they're not running interstate as opposed to intrastate.
I have my credit card companies and my bank. Anytime, any transaction over $25, I'll get a phone call.
And that's one way of at least having the ability to control, your financial information. That's a great. You can't.
And I just got a phone call today from Bank of America saying my account was locked and I need to call them back to confirm my identity.
and I think most credit cards are doing that right now. If you set that safeguard up with the credit card.
I'm sure this one is a scam.
I'm sure it is too, and which they will do too.
I'll call the number on the back of the card tomorrow and see.
Sure. Absolutely. So, yes, sir.
Are you familiar with anyone freezing their credit and how that impacts any of their investigations?
What was the question?
Am I aware of if somebody has been freezing their credit? Are you talking about an individual voluntarily freezing their credit?
Yes.
What was the actual question?
Yes, you can do that.
You can. I'm just wondering, is that showing up in your investigations at all?
I have not, and I've been practicing for 26 years, and that doesn't mean it didn't happen, but I haven't seen a situation where that I'm aware of that situation. No. And I don't know what that exactly would achieve, and I'm going to be thinking out loud with you here as to why you would want to freeze your credit.
I haven't done it yet, but from what I understand, you can call either one of the 3 big credit bureaus that monitor
Equifax, right? TransUnion.
And with those guys, any one of the 3, you can put a freeze on your credit so no one can open up accounts unless you physically unlock, you have to thaw your accounts so no one can go ahead and sign up. Now, if you're not going to go out run around opening new accounts, freeze it.
Can I help with this one?
Absolutely.
So in the military, they do this for free for us in active duty, especially after OPM got nailed and they gave all of us had top secret clearance. They let all of our information go. So it was actually free. I think it's $10 or $15 a year to freeze it, and it does what you did, what you just said. It locks down your account, and you have to do it at each you can't do it in one place. You have to do it for each of the 3. It locks it down. So if you go into Gander Mountain to do an application, it'll say denied. All it does is say denied. It won't say anything else to Gander Mountain. But then they'll contact you and say, if you'd like to do this, reapply and we'll let it go through. But otherwise, it'll lock it down and you won't be able to do it. And but it has no effect on your credit report, and it has no negative effect on your credit score. It just doesn't let anybody have any effect against your credit report unless you get permission. They'll get your phone number and or text mail or email in order to then you can get it. You can do it by text. They'll send you a text say, do you want to do this, or contact us immediately, and then you can contact them. So it works really well, actually.
Gary?
Yes, sir.
When you go internationally, when I would take an extended trip internationally, the bank tries calling you at home. You're international, and so they can't get a hold of you. Somebody gets a hold of your number. In Europe, they'll do it. They get a hold of your number, put it out, bank can't get a hold of you. So that's one, I know you can do that.
Yeah. That's true.
No, obviously, that's available. That's fantastic. I mean, that is a safeguard that outside of the inconvenience that you'd have to reapply for that, I think it would be worth it. So.
I got a simple one. Just a statement. Everybody's here 80 you paid for your bill, you paid for it probably by a credit card. Make sure it's your credit card you get back.
Again, speaking the obvious and a little common sense, absolutely. Sure.
I got a tip from one of these seminars. Your Medicare card has your Social Security number on it, and they don't need that. They just need to see the card. So what I did is I scanned my card on a color printer, then white it out, all the digits but the last 4. In my case, I did the last 3 for overkill, and then printed that up so it was the exact same size. And you hand it to them, and they go, your Social Security number is not on here. And I said, yeah, you're right. The number one source of fraudulent Medicare applications on your accounts is the people that work in the doctor's offices. They don't need your Social Security number on that card.
Actually, you're 1 digit short because you're so old.
As long as that's the only digits it's short.
From the guy who has white hair.
I got to take my shots right.
Peter talked about not carrying a gun in the courthouse. Before there was carry concealed, there was a short little Greek judge that I knew quite well, and he called me up and says, Ed, this is a true story, this is not a joke. He says, I've just found this guy guilty of murder, and the words come back that at the sentencing they're going to try to get me because he thought he was going to beat it on a self-defense. I said, you got to come down, and it might be a shooting down here, and they're going to be shooting at me. So on the day in question, I go there, and I go into his chambers, and I go, okay, I got the gun in the car, I know how to get it at the courthouse, I'll walk you out, and I'll make sure nobody does anything. He says, Ed, I could do my own shooting, and he pats his big odds, and he says, I just need somebody to testify it was a good shoot. No, Will County. You know who it is, don't mention his name.
There was that 26th Street I was at Christy Burkos, because but if you remember him.
You go around to these courtrooms,
Oh, yeah.
They got like baseball bats and stuff like that, and some of them are good shooters. You had 2 of them here speaking a while back. They do a lot of practicing. You know, they practice so much, one guy shot himself in the hand. Literally.
The reality is, and I know there's a lot of retired law enforcement here, this is a practical reality. The state's attorneys always wanted to be the police and carry the guns. The police officers wanted to be the state's attorneys and tell us what to do in court. And that was always the case. And I'm sure Phil would, that was always one or the other. Everybody wanted to do everybody else's job when you were probably best suited to do what you had right there. And believe me, I know that was not for me. So, but in any event, yes, sir.
How about, what's the statistics on youth identity theft? Teenagers, high school?
I would assume that it would be as perpetrators as opposed to the victims. Is that correct?
Yeah, like what's the...
I haven't seen any hard statistics, and I'm not over it in juvenile court. But if you do see a lot of that, or any of that, I think it would be less likely in the high sophisticated, high-end types of games that they're doing, as opposed to walking into a store, finding a wallet or somebody left a credit card behind and then using it that way, and you're purchasing your liquor for the weekend or your snacks or whatever the case may be, and not some sophisticated scheme. That's not to say that there's 15, 16, and 17-year-olds that can't do that or are not smart enough. Hell yes, they are smart enough to do that. If they're gang members, they may have like a little organization and they're running juveniles through, knowing that they're going to be going through as juvenile offenders as opposed to criminals. So, I mean, I don't think there's any statistics out there, but it wouldn't surprise me that that's what is happening. You don't see it a lot here in Will County, but I think you probably see it, up in the Chicago area where you have a higher concentration of people. So, yes, sir.
Just to touch on what Ed said about blocking out the numbers for ID. I've had a Social Security card for 53 years. When I first opened up my savings account when I was 10 years old, they issued out, you got issued Social Security cards back then. And anybody who's had one from that time, if you've had children, if you've ever seen your children's Social Security card, it doesn't say the same thing on the front. Mine says not for identification purposes.
Right.
The new ones don't. None of our children's have that on there.
Well, it's the only federal.
First thing I noticed on it.
All right.
I don't give mine out the same way, like that.
And then that's one of the things that they kind of suggest not to carry them at all with you.
Exactly. I
You know,
don't even
if
carry
it's
mine
not for
out.
identification purposes, then,
Right.
you know, why carry it with you?
Exactly.
Put it in a safe place. So, okay. Yes, sir.
Is the same thing true for the Medicare card? Is there any reason why we should carry it?
Well-
Seems like we should just leave it at home. If we have Medicare.
Everything would suggest to leave it at home. And when Ed brought the example up about the medical industry, that was the other example I was trying to think of that I was kind of surprised. I personally haven't seen that, but on the literature that I've read, you have more people, they're actually taking insurance benefits, and all of a sudden they're exhausting that person's insurance benefits because they're running an assumed or an alter identity of that individual, and they're going in there or going to get some type of medical. And next thing you know, when you really need to do it, you have that's it. You're maxed out, and that's a problem. It would seem to me that it would again put you in a situation of having an opportunity to someone get a hold of it, and then assuming your identity. I mean, from my dentist to my children's doctors to my doctors, I do have a card. I'll bring it in, but I leave the card back at home and not carry it in my wallet at all. So, I mean, that's just a personal decision. So, don't give them the chance. And I have a habit of leaving my wallet everywhere anyway. So, I give them the chance to do that.
Have you heard any advantage to the protectors so that people can't scan into your wallet when you're walking around? RFID.
Like, I have not.